Good afternoon, everybody. Keith Engle here. TGI Sports Talks MLB update. Little abrupt stop of the music. Sorry about that. For our open today, I want to welcome everybody watching us on TGI Sports Talk on where else you're watching us? Northeast Streaming Sports, whether these are on Facebook, YouTube, also live on Roku on Northeast Streaming Sports. Please download that app and watch those Roku shows. Some great shows on Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Let's Talk Sports. You get to YouTube and subscribe to the Let's Talk Sports channel. Lots of great content there as well. And also, you can catch us on Twitter as we'll share the shows there later on. Also want to give a thumbs up, DDH, and you all know what that means. And also, quick shout out to Ralph Williams from RW Media, as we have done on each show. He will plug our shows, we plug his. Ralph does some great work there in Pittsburgh, specifically with the sports corner that he does with Smokin' Jim Frazier on WBDP, 12:30 a.m. and 99.3 FM at Tuesdays at 5:30. And Ralph does some other great stuff during the week too. So go to his site, go to his Facebook page and like, follow, and share. Just like you should go to TGI Sports Talks page, like, follow, and share. Please get your cohorts to do the same thing, and we'd be very happy about that. Want to welcome everybody in. I mean, we're officially into the off season. The GM meetings were happening this week. We're going to talk specifically about managerial changes and GM changes today. Maybe we'll talk about some other news. But we'll get into the free agency here in another week or so. I'll probably have our own Drew Ehrlich on, and maybe we'll make some free agent predictions. But there's a lot to happen here. But we've had lots happening here recently. And I want to get into each of the managerial and general manager moves that have happened. And I want to talk specifically, as we go through this show, about Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell had worked out his contract. He was done. He was a free agent, basically. The Brewers wanted him back. But Craig Counsell took the opportunity. He'd been waiting for this opportunity because he felt that the manager's position needed to have a bump in salary, and he wanted to be the guy to move it into the next level. All well and good. He didn't know anything to the Brewers. He had a relationship with David Stearns, with the Mets. Previously, he'd been the president of the Brewers. Now he's the president and of baseball operations for the Mets. They had extensive conversations. By all accounts, it looked like he was about to sign. And before he could sign, or did sign, all of a sudden, and by the way, there was also talk about the Astros. There was also talk about a couple of other teams. But one team that was not talked about because they had a manager at the time was the Cubs. Listen, I'm all for people, free trade and all that, but there used to be a code among managers that you did not. If there was a job that was filled, you were not campaigning for that job. Jed Hoyer, the GM for the Cubs, decided he wanted to go after Craig Counsell. And if that's what he wanted to do, he should have gotten rid of the manager that he had. Don't like the way this all went down. I'm unsure whether Craig Counsell was using the Mets. I doubt that he was using his supposedly good friend, David Stearns, to, manipulate the contract with the Cubs higher. But it's certainly possible. He wanted to manage the Cubs. He wanted to be the highest paid manager in baseball, not just for himself, but to help move the salaries up, as it were, for everybody, which is fine. He's going to make $40 million over 5 years, $8 million a year nearly unheard of for a Major League Baseball manager. But again, there's a manager in place, guys. David Ross is there. How do you man? And there used to be, again, a code of between managers that if a job was filled, you didn't go campaign for that job. And Craig Counsell obviously was openly campaigning not only to be the Cubs, the highest paid manager in baseball, but to have it be with the Cubs, who he rooted for as a kid and is an arch rival of his Brewers, former team, the Brewers. But he did that while that job was filled. And David Ross did a good job. He was well liked by the players. I mean, there was some thought that maybe he didn't make a lot of the managerial moves on the field. Andy Green, the bench coach, took care of a lot of that. But he had a good reputation among the players. The players felt like he had their back. He did a good job here. He managed them to the playoffs in the COVID season. He got them close to the playoffs this year after they were given up for dead by most people, including myself. And I feel like Counsell used the Mets. Northeast Streaming Sports, good afternoon. Codes aren't cool in this MLB, Keith. Yeah, I know. It's every man for himself, right? I mean, but Craig Counsell wants to make it sound like, and welcome to Mac or Linda, whoever we're talking to here, and both at Northeast Streaming Sports. As I said at the top, make sure you get out there and download that Roku channel app, the Northeast Streaming Sports app, because there's a ton of great content. I mean, every day there's a good, I don't know, Mac, you can help me out, good 10 hours of programming, original content daily now. Great job building that up. So make sure you check that out. But, you know, I get it. You know, codes are dead in sports. It's every man for himself. But Craig Counsell wants to portray himself as wanting to help all managers by moving the needle on managerial salaries. And at the same time, he's costing one of his brethren his job. One of the people he says he's trying to help. I don't understand. I like Craig Counsell. I think Craig Counsell is one of the best managers in baseball. But should Craig Counsell be the highest manager in baseball? He doesn't have any World Series victories. He's barely got any playoff victories. Did make it to the NLCS 1 year against the Dodgers. But he's had more one and dones in the playoffs than anything else. And again, I understand he's worked under some great restraints, money-wise, financially-wise in Milwaukee. That's the smallest market in Major League Baseball. And he's done a great job. I just don't like the way this whole thing went down. So Mac just giving us the thumbs up of all the great content over there. And again, was he using the Mets? I don't know if he'd use his good friend David Stearns as the way. Maybe he was interested in the Mets. But I have a feeling he used the Mets to drive up the price with the Cubs. Cubs laid in the weeds. Nobody even knew they were in play. We heard about the Astros wanting to talk to Craig Counsell. Not sure if he ever did. But that's just one of the moves. And we're going to get into some other moves here today. And we can revisit this if some other people come in and want to do it. But lots of moves that have gone on. And we're going to go through them all right now and talk about everything that's happened here. So changes so far we know about. Obviously, we know the Red Sox fired Chan Bloom. He was replaced by Craig Breslow. I think Bloom had done as good a job in Boston as he could have. You got to win or you're out in Boston. That's it. I really thought Joey Cora was going to pay the price here too, but it looks like he will survive. Stephen Vogt, former catcher with the Giants and I believe the Mariners, who'd spent some time coaching these last several years since his playing career ended not too long ago. In fact, he played until 2022, so he'd only been a coach for a year and partial part of 2022. He replaces Terry Francona, who retired mostly due to health circumstances. I mean, Terry's struggled the last few years with his health, having to take a lot of time off, including most of 1 year a few years back. Done a great job. Great career for Terry Francona with the hated Red Sox and with Cleveland. He did a great job. You know, say what you want about the Red Sox or whatnot. Terry Francona was the guy who broke the curse. So Vogt will take over there. Again, not a lot of experience, but he's 39 years old, and we'll see what he's got. There's a couple of guys with no experience that have gotten jobs here. In Detroit, Jeff Greenberg was hired as their new GM on September 26th. Dusty Baker, as we know, resigned after being eliminated in the World Series. The Rangers winning their first World Series and beating the Astros in 5 games. Dusty has had a great career. In my mind, one of the most underrated managers in Major League Baseball. Calls it a career. They're looking around. The talk is that Joe Espada, the bench coach, is the front runner there. They wanted to talk to Craig Counsell. They wanted to talk to Ron Washington, who we'll talk about in a second, took the Angels job. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Astros go. There's some other names, we haven't talked about. Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly's out there and available to be hired. I would think Don Mattingly would fit a team like the Astros perfectly. Whether he gets an interview remains to be seen. He may very well remain the bench coach of the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm a little surprised he's not managing that team this year after the exploits of Schneider the last 2 postseasons ago, and managing the way this team collapsed pretty much down the stretch again this year. So that's interesting. Ron Washington, who we just mentioned, has been hired this week as the new manager of the Angels, replacing Phil Nevin, who replaced Joe Madden and didn't have a lot of success. Buck Showalter was rumored to be in play here, along with former players, Angel players Darren Erstad and I want to say, who's the other one? I think Tim Salmon, if I'm not mistaken. But Ron Washington has had a good run managing the A's back earlier this century. Led them to 2 consecutive World Series, managed them for a long, long time. He managed them from 2007 to 2014. As I said, 4 consecutive 90-win seasons, 2 consecutive World Series. They unfortunately lost in a wild card round another time. He was fired in 2014 with his record at 53-87. A lot of stuff was swirling around Ron Washington at that time. Rumors of a sexual assault allegation. Again, nothing ever came to light. I'm only going to bring these up because they were well documented at the time as being rumors. There was rumors of potential substance problem with Ron Washington, but he gets fired in 2014, and again, there was something going on because Ron Washington was not offered another job until he was 70. I think he's 73 years old now, if I'm not mistaken. How old is Ron? 71, excuse me. Did great job. The Braves, he's been a coach with the Braves, I think, for the last since 2015, done great work with their infielders, and he's been the third base coach. The players there all love him. He may bring a coach or two with him to the Angels. The only problem here is Ron Washington is an accomplished major league manager and a baseball lifer, by the way. Coached with the A's for a long time before he got the Rangers job. The only problem I see here is he's going into a job that, Ohtani's probably not coming back. Mike Trout is still one of the great players, but he can't stay on the field. The pitching here is still horrendous. So until something's fixed in the front office, this is not a great baseball job right now. And I hope Ron Washington is able to turn things around there, because I like Ron Washington, and I hope that this isn't I hope this isn't something that Ron Washington regrets later on. Other jobs, we talked about counsel. The Brewer job obviously is open at the present time. They're looking at a lot of people, including former player, former second baseman, a really good player, and Ricky Weeks. He's being considered. Dodgers coach Clayton McCullough is being looked at. Astros coach Joe Espada, who I just mentioned is probably the front runner for the Astros job, is going to get an interview here most likely, unless he's hired first. Who else? Troy Spinker is another one. He's also a Astros coach. Again, another place that I think Donnie Mattingly would fit very well. You're going to hear me talk about Don Mattingly a lot as these jobs potentially fill up. We already know that David Stearns took over for the Mets. He really replaced Sandy Alderson, who'd been kind of a figurehead there for a while, had some health problems. He came from the A's, been with the Mets a couple of different times, but he was brought in to officially be the president of baseball operations. They also fired Billy Epler, who's not going to be replaced this year. So David Stearns will be the de facto general manager, as well as running baseball operations there. The Mets, after losing out on Craig Counsell, interestingly, where it looked like they got rid of Buck Showalter, I think they had all their eggs in one basket. At least I'll give them credit for going after a manager after they fire their manager, unlike the Cubs, who, to me, just go behind David Ross's back. Well, David Ross may be a candidate for the Astros, too, by the way. I think it'd be very interesting if he took over the Brewers. That would make for an interesting dynamic. But the Mets now, with Counsell gone, you think they might go look for somebody with some experience, and they turn to Yankee bench coach Carlos Mendoza, who comes highly recommended, but no managerial experience on the major league level. So I don't know this. And again, this is a tough job, man. You're going to be managing one of the highest payrolls, even though as the Mets try to pare their payroll down, this is one of the highest payrolls in baseball. This is a tough job. This isn't an easy job for even one of these seats in New York. Any coaching job in New York is tough. And we'll see if Carlos Mendoza is up to the task. Comes highly recommended. Aaron Boone recommended him very highly. Says he's ready to do this. But, if he's that ready to manage, I would like to see the Yankees maybe escalate him to the Yankee manager's job. Where else? Aaron Boone. I don't know why he's on here. He's been retained. Bob Melvin was in a similar situation to Craig Counsell, and he elected not to return to the Padres, and he is going to be the new manager of the Giants. And again, to Bob Melvin's credit, he took a job that did not have somebody filling it already. So Bob Melvin's done a very good job in his career throughout Major League Baseball. Another guy who's, pretty much a baseball lifer. If I can find his, here we go. So he's been a manager in Major League Baseball since 2003. Managed the Mariners for a couple of years, managed them to a 93-win season in 2003, and then fell off the next year, lost his job. He went to Arizona, got them after a couple of years of rebuilding, got them into the playoffs with a 90-win season, winning the NL West and losing the NLCS to Colorado in 2007. Yes, the Colorado Rockies used to make the playoffs here and there, by the way. Stayed in Arizona through 2009. Then he went to Oakland, where he did a really, really good job with one of the worst situations in baseball as far as budget, as far as stadium, whatever you want to go. go to. He did a great job here. He won 90 games, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. He won over 80 another 3 times. He made the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in Oakland. 6 times with probably one of the lowest budgets in baseball. In fact, his last year there, he won 86 games. We know what Oakland's done since he left. Mark Kotsay's done the best he can as the manager there. He's also, by the way, been mentioned for the Astros job. Mark Kotsay, maybe looking to get out of Oakland. Well, the getting's good. But Bob Melvin did a great job here and then went to San Diego, wanted to see what he could do with a bigger payroll, got them into the wild card and upset the Mets in the first round of the wild card last year, ended up losing the NLCS to the Phillies. So he got them to the championship series in the National League last year with 89 wins. But this year, just a total disaster, if you will. I mean, they went 82-80, but this team was under 500 almost the entire year. They had a good run at the end to kind of close that gap. But I think it's a good hire for the Giants, one of the most underrated managers in baseball. Bob Melvin takes over the San Francisco Giants. Hello, Augustin. How are you? Good to have you with us. And Augustin, as I'm talking about Bob Melvin taking over that job, Bob Melvin will do very well with your team, Augustin. He's one with big payrolls. He's one with no payrolls. He's done a great job, and he's 20 years he's been managing in the major leagues. So you're great. No, I know you love the Giants. So congratulations on getting yourself a bona fide manager. By the way, Bruce Bochy, probably the best manager in Giants history, won that World Series with the Rangers this year, and he has solidified his spot in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Peter Bendix was hired in the Marlins as their new GM after they surprisingly fired Kim Ng as the general manager. She's done a great job. They're rebuilding that roster and helping getting that team into the playoffs this year. With a very flawed team, great pitching staff, very flawed offensive team. They did a great job. Skip Schoonmaker did a great job managing this team. Very surprising that Kim Ng gets fired here. So I don't think she'll be out of a job very long. So we'll see how that goes. And then we talked about these others. The jobs that are still open now are the Padres. And the Padres are said to be talking to, God, I hope this is a place that Donnie Mattingly does not even consider, I would hope, because this is not a good place. Supposedly the Padres have narrowed themselves down to 2 finalists. We'll see if that's true. Mike Schlitt, who is manager of the St. Louis Cardinals up until a couple of years ago when they fired him and hired Carlos Marmol. He did spend some time on the Padres coaching staff the last couple of seasons. And Ryan Flaherty, who's been on the big league staff working with the hitters since 2020, have been interviewed. Also, Angels infield coach and Benji Gill and Mendoza, who's already now got a job, were interviewed as well. But from what I hear, it looks like Schlitt and Flaherty are the front runners here. Now, again, a couple of wild cards here. David Ross, who lost his job this week, surprisingly, is probably going to be up for these. We talked about the guys who the Astros are interested in, their own Joe Espada, possibly Mark Kotsay. I would think David Ross would also get an interview there as well. And we talked about the Brewers. Wouldn't it be an interesting dynamic if the Brewers were to hire David Ross and you basically had a swap? These two teams don't like each other. It'd be very interesting if Counsell and Ross just swapped offices. for this coming season. I think that'd be very, very interesting. Some other news around Major League Baseball. We talked about this type of thing. The A's and the Oakland mayor has asked the owners to reject the A's move to Vegas because they still plan on building them a new stadium. We'll see whether that happens or not. I mean, the A's, I'm on record as saying that these cities, look at the A's, I know haven't put a great product on the field the last few years. But when they put a great product on the field, fans don't come out. I know it's not the greatest stadium in the world, but the A's didn't draw when the way they should have back in the 70s when they had a three-peat World Series winner. They didn't draw then. The Rays keep winning year after year after year now, and people don't come out. These cities, if you don't want to get out and support your teams, you're going to lose your team. The cities, this happened to the Marlins. The Marlins got the city to build them a new stadium, and they still don't draw. So if you're not going to come, it's not necessarily a case of if you build it, they will come. So let them go elsewhere. Oh, God. Silver Slugger Awards were announced here. The Rangers had a couple of people on this team. In the American League, it was Adley Rutschman from Baltimore. Yandy Diaz from Tampa Bay was named at first base. Marcus Semien from Texas at second base. These are the best offensive players at these positions, by the way. Corey Seager from Texas. Rafael Devers from Boston. The outfield was Kyle Tucker from Houston. J-Rod from Seattle. Luis Robert from Chicago. And the DH was Shohei Ohtani from the Angels. And the utility man would be Gunnar Henderson. In the National League, you had William Contreras from Milwaukee at catcher. Matt Olson, a great year with the Braves. From Atlanta. Second baseman was Luis Arraza from Miami. A shortstop, Francisco Lindor from New York. Austin Riley from Atlanta had a great year after a slow start. Obviously, Acuna from Atlanta, Mookie Betts from Los Angeles, and Juan Soto, who very quietly had a great year with San Diego. Bryce Harper was the DH, and Cody Bellinger was a utility player there. We also had the Gold Glove team announced here, which I'm trying hard to find. By the way, speaking of Harper, it looks like he will be a full-time first baseman going forward, which will certainly change the Phillies' approach to a lot of things come this winter. Let's see if we can find the Gold Glove winners here. Not what I'm looking for. It'll be Gold Gloves, not Old Gloves. Oh, my God. Gold Glove winners. I don't want history. I want the 23. That's what I want. 2023, the American League, first base. Nathaniel Lowe for the Rangers. Had a nice year this year. Offensively, defensively. Played very, very well. Good first baseman. Second baseman is Jimenez from the Guardians, team formerly known as the Indians. At third base, Matt Chapman for the Blue Jays. Some of the Yankees are chasing very diligently this winter. Shortstop, surprisingly in my mind, was Anthony Volpe from the Yankees. He had a very good year, but he had some strong competition from Jeremy Pena and some others. A little surprising that Volpe wins this award, but congratulations to him. The catcher was Haim from the Rangers. Jose Barrios from the Blue Jays was the pitcher. The outfielders were Stephen Kwan from the team formerly known as the Indians. Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays. And Adolis Garcia from the Rangers. Great young player, Garcia. I just need him to start showing a little bit of maturity on the field. Less style, more substance is what I need to see from Adolis Garcia, and he could be one of the greats. And the utility man is Dubon from the Astros, who filled in for Altuve when he was out early in the season, and then later in the season, and also played some shortstop, then played all around the diamond a little bit. In the National League, Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks at first base, Nico Horner from the Cubs, rookie, great season for him, his first year. Ke'Bryan Hayes, Charlie Hayes, former San Francisco Giant, Augustin, former Philly, and former Yankee World Series winner in 1996 with the Yankees, Charlie Hayes. His son, Ke'Bryan, does a great job. He's a great fielder. He has yet to put it really together with the bat, but he's really a excellent fielder, and congratulations to him and to his dad. Dansby Swanson, the one good signing I thought the Cubs made last year, wins the Gold Glove at shortstop. At catcher, Gabriel Moreno from the D-backs had a very good season, very good young catcher. At pitcher, Zach Wheeler from the Phillies. Left field, Ian Happ for the Cubs, another guy the Yankees have had their eyes on the last few years. Center field was Bretton Doyle from the Rockies, so the Rockies get some kind of love here in the postseason award season. Fernando Tatis, in his first year full-time work in right field, wins a Gold Glove. Great job out there. And the utility was Ha-Sung Kim from the Padres. He played all over the field as well. So congratulations to all of those players for winning Gold Gloves this year. Again, I mentioned Bryce Harper when we talked about the Silver Slugger Award. He will be the full-time first baseman, and the Phillies will move on from Ryan Hoskins. Some other news around Major League Baseball. Jason Benetti has been hired as the Tigers' new TV voice, ex play-by-player with the White Sox. Ex-Nationals player Gerardo Parra, really good defensive outfielder, has been hired as the first base coach for the Nationals. Ohtani will be donating baseball gloves to schools in Japan, so he's getting ready to spend that big free agency money. What else is going on in the world of baseball? You guys have anything you want to bring up, please do so. I'll look through a couple other things here. We'll get into the free agent market. We're gonna dive into it full bore. Maybe next week I'll have again our own Drew Ehrlich on, and we will review all of the free agents, especially the top free agents anyway, and decide where we think they may go. A lot of guys fired up about this council thing for sure. Let me look at the let's look at the Athletic and see what kind of news we might have here. Again, we talked about Ron Washington. You know, going back to these managerial hires, I really like what Washington did, avoiding, the age issue and going with a 71-year-old Ron Washington, a baseball lifer, a guy who's a bit old school, but maybe can make sense of, the new world analytics. Bob Melvin, I like that move for the Giants. Craig Counsell, listen, any team should be happy to have him. Just not happy about the way that it went down. And a couple of first-time guys who are going to have to see how it makes out. Stephen Vogt in Cleveland and Carlos Mendoza with the Mets. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I guess I'll talk about this real quick. The Yankees, I mentioned the Yankees earlier, and they've got a lot of work to do in this offseason. Brian Cashman had a press conference the other day that kind of went awry, and he ended up, gosh, he got very excited, very boisterous, and he claimed that this is a good baseball team. I don't know what team he's watching. This is not a good baseball team. They moved on from a bunch of players this week, including Domingo Germán, who pitched a no-hitter this year. And if it were up to me, Domingo Germán would have been gone from his team a couple of years ago when they had domestic violence charges against him in the Dominican. But there's a lot of work to do here. There's a lot of talk that Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner want to go after Juan Soto. Juan Soto is going to be on a trade block this year because he's playing out his contract. Padres have shown no inclination to sign him to an extension after trading half their farm system for him. Excuse my hiccup there. I don't want him in New York. Where's he going to play? He can't DH as long as we got that stiff Giancarlo Stanton playing DH. He can't play in the field. He's a defensive liability. The biggest left field in baseball is a Yankee Stadium. You're not going to move Judge to left and play him in right. Do not need to spend the money it's going to take to keep him here in New York. We've got stars. We've got Judge. You've got your guy to build around. Let's go out and get some guys that are going to be a little more cost-effective and good, solid, fundamental baseball players. I like Cody Bellinger. Can play any of the outfield positions. They need help in center and left field. Very good defensive player. Had a really good bounce back year with the Cubs this year with the bat. Do I worry a little bit about his last couple of years in LA? Yes. But again, I think I can get him a lot cheaper than I might be able to get some of these other guys like Soto, like Ohtani. Also, a lot of talk that the Yankees will be after Chapman, the Gold Glove winner at third base from the Blue Jays. Perfect solution for the Yankees. Good defensive player and a decent fundamental approach at the plate. Something the Yankees need. And again, I need to see better approach at the bat. And the Yankees supposedly have got an outside organization looking at what's wrong with this organization. It's a sick organization, guys. Just the approach to the game is just all wrong. From the minors up, they're teaching these guys launch angles and exit velocity, and that's how they're teaching guys to hit. Not putting the ball in play. Volpe is a great example. He swings the same way, whether it's 0-0 in the count, whether it's 3-0 in the count, whether it's 3-2 in the count, whether it's 0-2 in the count, whether there's guys on base, whether there's guys in running and scoring position. Volpe needs a better approach at the plate. Better situational awareness. All the Yankees need this. At bat and on the bases. I'm not going to watch another season of Gleyber Torres' base running strategy being I'm going to run until I get tagged out. Can't happen this way anymore. So Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner both had press conferences this week that were less than inspiring if you're a Yankee fan, because they don't seem to think the sky's falling, and it is. Ian, how are you, buddy? Live from Australia. My passion. I'm calm today, Ian. Good to have you with us. We've had Ian. Ian's been on with us before, I know. And I appreciate you tuning in from down under there, if you will. So my passion gets the best of me sometimes, Ian. But believe me, it's well intended, because the things I believe in, my teams, I'm very passionate about. When they're good, I'm passionate about that. When they're bad, I'm passionate about that. But I don't jump ship. As you can see, I'm a Patriot fan. We're not going to get into that. This is the Major League Baseball show. But I didn't become a Patriot fan when I started winning. I won't stop being a Patriot fan when I stop winning. I was a Yankee fan when they were bad in the late 60s, early 70s when I was a kid. Yes, I'm old, Ian. I'm sorry. Got to live through some great glory days in the late 70s and the mid 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s. And look at it. It isn't like this team was not just bad last year. They were boring. I don't want to watch bad, boring baseball. Let's build around Judge and the kids. I want to see Volpe develop a little more. I want to see Peraza get a chance, whether it's at third base or second base. I'm not going to move Volpe to second base because Peraza is a better. If Volpe won a Gold Glove, Peraza is a better shortstop. I'm okay. We'll leave Volpe at shortstop for now. I want to trade Glaber. Glaber had a decent year last year. His value is probably never going to be higher than it is right now. You need pitching. You need outfield help. It's time to move on from Glaber. Play the kids. Build again. I've got Judge to build around. I've got a good core of kids and Peraza and Volpe. Wells behind the plate. Hopefully Dominguez will come back late next year or the year after. I'm okay having a slow retooling of this team. Doesn't have to be a total teardown. And I'm okay if we don't win next year. But let's not be boring while we're being bad. It's no greater vice in sports. That's the Patriots' problem now as well. They're boring besides being bad. Gosh, who do I see? It's a good question, too. I don't see the Yankees rebounding next year. I mean, the Orioles are on the come. The Orioles are very good. And by the way, when I talk about rebuilding the Yankees or retooling the Yankees, look at what Baltimore's done. Look at what the Diamondbacks have done. Those teams and some others have rebuilt around some core people, homegrown people. Yankees need to do that. And then you fill in with a few key free agents. That's what the Yankees did in the 90s. The core of that team was Jeter and Rivera and Pettit and Posada and Bernie Williams. And then they brought in the Paul O'Neills, right? They brought in the Wade Boggs, Charlie Hayes, Tony Fernandez for a while, Mariano Duncan. They weren't looking to find Juan Soto's and Otani's. You've got your guy in Judge. You don't need those other guys. It's time to get these kids up to speed, teach them the right way to play Major League Baseball fundamentally. I can't stress enough these kids need to be more aware of situations and how to approach them. A man on third with less than 2 outs. Getting a guy from second to third. Productive outs. Strikeouts are not productive outs. So I don't want to see it anymore. We're not going to go into too much more today. Ian, if you got anything, Ian, I love you coming in from Australia, dude. Who do you follow? Ian, if you're still with me, who do you follow out there? Do you follow a Major League Baseball team? I'd like to have a conversation with you real quick, if you've got time, because we got a few minutes, and I'm either going to wrap it up a little bit earlier. We'll talk a little bit. I'm curious who you follow, if you follow somebody here in the States, or what your, what your thoughts are of sports here in the U.S. compared to, down there you've got Australian Rules football, I know. Not sure what else we play in Australia, but I'm curious about your thoughts on Major League Baseball as somebody from outside of this country. And if you got a team, I'd love to discuss that team. By the way, going back to the Yankees, I'm sorry, I got to go back to the Yankees until Ian answers me if he does. I don't understand why Cashman and Boone are back. I really don't. We've seen what they can do. Aaron Boone's had some really good teams, had some really good regular seasons. But I think we've seen how far he can take a team. And it's not all his doing. Brian Cashman built this team. And it's flawed because without home runs, they don't score runs, which is why when they get to the postseason, good pitching shuts them down. The Astros, 2 years in a row. And don't give me the sign stealing nonsense, please. Please. As I've talked about with the Jim Harbaugh situation, everybody's stealing signs. Everybody. Some teams take it to a different level. And whether they're stealing signs or not, it's not why you scored, 1 run a game. It might be why they scored 2, but it's not why you scored 1. So please, give me a break. As I said, next week we'll get into the free agent market. We'll see what that looks like. There's a lot of players out there, and I don't want the Yankees to really, I don't want them in the Ohtani sweepstakes. They don't need to be in that arena. We've got some kids we can build around. I mentioned the offensive players. What about Clark Schmidt? Clark Schmidt had some good growth last year in that rotation after he got his arm stretched out. Cole wins the Cy Young Award. Congratulations to him, as we knew he would. I just think that, there's some hope here. We can get some guys healthy. I think Severino, it's time to move on from Severino. He cannot stay healthy. But I'm confident that they can build something here in the next year, 2 years, and then be a contender again. We don't have to be a contender next year for me to be happy. I know us Yankee fans have a reputation of being spoiled, and I am. This is why I think Aaron Boone has reached his ceiling with the Yankees. I know he's won 100 games a couple times, high 90s. But they don't win in the postseason. He's beholden to the scripts that the front office, you, Brian Cashman, are sticking him with. And a lot of managers. That's why I'm interested in this new class of managers. What happens? Because it's time. Somebody's got to break the mold that we have here now, where guys have no feel for the game. No feel at all. I got a script in front of me, and this is what I got to stick with. This guy pitches a 6th inning. This guy pitches a 7th inning. This guy can't pitch more than 80 pitches. This guy, blah, 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 blah. And we make moves. A guy can retire a guy on 3 pitches. And if it's not his job to come back out the next inning, he doesn't come out. What do you got for me, Ian? Sorry, Ian's leaving for work. No problem. No particular good luck at work. You're going kind of, what time is it there? Oh, we got like 12 hours. I don't know what the difference is. You're up early, going to work early, dude. Just love all sports. Australian sports are Australian full rules. Cricket. I was trying to get to cricket. And the women's Australian rules football starts the playoffs this weekend. I think I promised Ian in the past that we would dive into Australian rules football someday. And Ian, maybe we'll have you on the show, not this show, but maybe my Sunday stream of consciousness when it's a little quieter. And maybe dive into Australian rules football and tell the fans here in the States, because I know some people that do it. And I know there's been a couple of players from the States here that have done very well in it. So we'll get you on the show one day, Ian, and have you kind of explain the game to us ugly Americans and take it from there. So I appreciate you tuning in today, Ian, and glad you watched the show. Please, if you aren't liking, following the show so far, please do. And do me a favor, Ian, go to the 3 little dots when you log into TGI Sports Talk and invite your friends. Would you please? I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, we're going to wrap it up today. I will see you Sunday with the Stream of Conscious. I want to thank Ian and Augustin for contributing today. We'll be talking more about the free agent market, as I said, in weeks to come. Sunday, we'll have the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. I'll be on earlier before that show with Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat and give you my picks for the NFL, and we'll talk about college football season on Sunday morning. We'll talk about all the results from Saturday, some big games this weekend. We'll talk about that week's NFL, talk some Major League Baseball, and anything else that comes to mind That's why it's the stream of consciousness. Guys, I'll see you then. DDH thumbs up. We'll see you guys on the other side. Have a great weekend.